Okay, thanks everyone for your patience. Let's go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Julie Mock. I am the Conservation Director for the Colorado Mountain Club, and we are working on a mapping project to gather recreation data around the state of Colorado for environmental advocacy purposes. This is a project in coordination with Outdoor Alliance and with funding from the Aspen Environment Foundation. So we want to say thanks to both of those groups for their support. I'm going to run through a PowerPoint here, which you should be able to see on your screen. I'm happy to take questions through the chat function on Google Hangouts throughout the presentation, or you can email me after the webinar with any questions that you have about the project. So to get us started, I want to talk a little bit about Outdoor Alliance Colorado. This group was founded in 2012, and we work across a variety of outdoor recreational sports to serve as a grass tops coalition for human-powered recreation in Colorado. Right now, the organization consists of the Colorado Mountain Club, representing primarily hikers and backcountry skiers, American Whitewater, representing the paddlers, the Colorado Mountain Bike Association, and the Access Fund for the rock climbers. OAC is a part of Outdoor Alliance, which is a national group that started in 2005, representing similar organizations on a nationwide level with a collective membership of over 100,000 individuals across the country. Together, we're working on a number of different advocacy campaigns, promoting, again, access and protection for human-powered recreation primarily. We've worked together on the Browns Canyon National Monument, the Hermosa Creek Watershed Protection Act, public land travel planning, and then this recreation mapping workshop. We meet occasionally throughout the year, and we'll also occasionally do trips out to the Capitol or to Washington, D.C. to meet with legislators and work on some of these land protection campaigns. I also want to talk a little bit about the Backcountry Snowsports Initiative. This is a program of the Colorado Mountain Club, and we are the state's voice for human-powered winter recreation specifically. BSI became a program of CMC in 2009 and has a long legacy of working on a variety of winter travel planning processes throughout the state, including places like Vail Pass, Rabbit Ears Pass, and Red Mountain Pass. Some of the designations that we see in those areas for motorized and non-motorized use came out of the work that BSIA has done over the years. Most recently, we've also been working on a new Forest Service over snow vehicle rule process, which will dictate how forests manage motorized use in the winter more so than they have in the past. Again, we want to thank the Aspen Environment for supporting BSI and the work in this mapping project so that we can work on campaigns like the Forest Service over snow vehicle rule. So to get to the topic at hand today, you may be asking, why do we need to map outdoor recreation? Again, we're doing this primarily for advocacy purposes, and for our various user groups, we really need to know where people are going in the backcountry. For different sports, there's different information available, whether it's trail databases, and there's such, recreational guidebooks, that sort of thing. But there's a lot of gaps in that information. So just to know where our users are traveling in the backcountry is really helpful as we move forward in some of these travel planning processes or other land use policies. Our goal is then to share that information with land managers so that they also have a clear picture of where people are recreating on public lands, whether it's Forest Service or BLM, etc. Having the maps in a good GIS format also allows us to identify different conflicts or potential conflicts with, say, development from oil and gas, impacts on wildlife species, and then impacts or conflicts between different user groups where folks are overlapping in the type of recreational use on public lands. We can also use this data to inform future planning and management, travel management, as I mentioned. So So when we're working with the agencies on travel planning and new trail development, again, we can see where folks are going and look at potential conflicts in the future. We can look at parking and access issues. We can look at land use designations, wilderness recreation management areas, et cetera, and how those overlap with the existing recreational use and even future uses. We use the data in public comments and citizens' proposals, that sort of thing, as we're working with the agencies. Specifically, I want to talk to you about winter recreation mapping. This is one of the areas where we've got the biggest gap in information currently. And as I mentioned, in February of 2015, the U.S. Forest Service passed a new over-snow vehicle rule. And that will dictate how forests manage motorized use throughout the country, really. Right now, the White River National Forest is the only forest in Colorado with a comprehensive winter recreation and travel plan. Other forests throughout the state have some regulations for over-snow vehicle use, but in the majority of areas, snowmobile use is open, essentially, on the forest. Right now, there's very little consolidated GIS data for non-motorized winter use, and this includes everything from backcountry skiing, alpine touring, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, and winter mountaineering as well. So it's really tough to get a good idea of where backcountry users are going in the wintertime. They're not restricted to trails as much as as they are in the summer, maybe. So this is part of the reason we're collecting this information. What we'd like to do is then present the Forest Service with these more comprehensive maps, show them where people are going, and be able to identify the really high priority backcountry winter landscapes that we want to see protected for human-powered use. So we'll talk a little bit about the data that we're using in this mapping project, kind of where it comes from and then where it ends up. Right now, we're collecting information from a number of different sources. There's open source information available on the web through ArcGIS Online and various other places. We're also gathering information directly from the agencies, from the Forest Service and BLM GIS specialists, as well as habitat information from Colorado Parks and Wildlife, that sort of thing. And then a big part of what we're looking for, and part of the reason you're on this webinar today, is user input. Our recreational users are one of the best sources for information on where people are going. So we have been hosting a number of mapping workshops across the state. We'll be in Gunnison next week, actually. We'll talk a little more about that. But then we've also got a number of web platforms where we can have folks their tracks and show us where they're going. Right now, that data processing is information is coming to the different Outdoor Alliance groups, whether it's CMC or the International Mountain Bike Association or the Access Fund. We can then take that information, clean it, format it, verify it, make sure it's accurate, and then add it to existing databases, again, whether that's wildlife information or GIS data that we've gotten from the agencies. We're kind of putting that all together. And then as far as using the data, we are specifically using it for advocacy projects, layering it with relevant info and then distributing it to the agencies, politicians, using it for campaigns, that sort of thing. So that's just kind of an overview of the process at this point. And then what does it look like? This is, I think, the most interesting part. This is just a snapshot near Turquoise Lake outside of Leadville. You can see the black lines are mountain bike trails. The light blue lines are backcountry ski trails and downhill descents. And then the blue dots are rock climbing crags. So you've got a high density of recreation, lots of different types of recreation happening in this small area. And again, we can then take this and layer it with different data from multiple sources. Outdoor Alliance has been helping us quite a bit with the compilation of data from a number of different sports. If we look at one sport in particular, this example is on the White River National Forest, a number of ski trails and huts, winter backcountry huts and yurts. Level, we've got our ski trails in blue and the huts in brown. And what we're able to then do is add information on top of that to see what else is going on this portion of the forest. So in this slide, you can see we've got lynx habitat data overlaid on top of our trails. The darker purple colors are their kind of winter critical range and denning habitats, and the lighter pink is just general lynx habitat. So you can start to see where there maybe are overlaps between wildlife use and recreational uses. Here you can see our overlay of the White River National Forest winter recreation plan. The orange indicates open motorized areas. The darker green indicates motorized prohibited areas, and the lighter green indicates areas where motorized use is allowed, but it is restricted. To see where we've got overlapping uses, motorized use in close proximity to some of the hut systems, that sort of thing. And then finally, we can combine all of that together and look at both the winter recreation plan as well as lynx habitat and our trails all in one picture here. So again, overlaying all of this information is really helpful when we're working with the agencies to determine which uses take priority in a given area or how we want to modify existing plans to suit the needs of all of the different users and wildlife and other resources on the forest. We can also zoom out a little bit and look at, this is backcountry ski data on kind of a macro scale. In central Colorado, you can see the really high density areas of backcountry use. The yellow dots indicate backcountry ascents, and then the darker, the blue, green, and black are ski lines of varying difficulty level. So this gives us just a little more perspective on where we're seeing more backcountry winter use. And then on an even larger scale, this is a picture of the state of Colorado and the current winter travel plans that are in place at the moment on the forest. We can also look at wilderness areas, National Park Service areas, BLM, lots of different overlays again to give us an idea of how much terrain is out there, how much is open to motorized use, how much is restricted or closed to motorized use as well. So to talk a little bit about the public platforms that we've been using to collect this user data, Outdoor Alliance is currently partnering with adventure projects, and we're utilizing user-driven data for this advocacy work. Adventure Projects has a number of different sites for the different sports we're interested in. Mountain Project is specifically for rock climbing. MTB Project was designed for mountain biking, and one of their newer releases is Powder Project, designed for backcountry skiing. AmericanWhitewater.org is also a great source for boating, whitewater paddling information as well. And we'll talk more about how you go through the process of actually entering data on these sites. And then what's great is we've got an agreement with Adventure Project to then be able to pull the information from the back end out of these sites and use it for our advocacy work. So a quick demo, this is a snapshot of the Powder Project website. And I'm going to walk through basically how you would go about setting up your account and starting to enter tracks into Powder Project. And again, we've got an agreement to be able to pull this data out of the back end of their website to use for advocacy purposes. So we've got a great relationship with these guys. The first thing you will need to do is set up an account. You can do that up in the top right-hand corner of the page. Get your account set up with your email address and password, and then you'll want to click the Share Your Tracks button. bring you to a screen that looks like this, and this is fairly similar across their different platforms. Even for MTB project or mountain project, the interface is very similar. For the powder project, you can choose to create an approach or ascent, or you can create a ski line, which is a downhill line. You can pick which one you'd like to do. And that will take you to this next screen where you have the opportunity to upload tracks that you have taken either with a GPS or other device. You can upload a GPX or a KML Google Earth file, and you simply choose your file from your computer and then click upload. That'll bring you to this screen where if you've got a number of different tracks in one file, you've got an option to either join all those tracks together or select the track that you want to edit first. So I selected this Resolution Mountain track first. And then you've got an opportunity, it'll load the data from your GPX file, and you've got an opportunity to edit it if you need to. You can move these small dots around, make sure things are lining up, and reverse the direction if needed, etc. So you get that set up. As soon as it's ready, you move on to the next screen that we'll look at in just a second. The other opportunity you have if you don't have GPX tracks to upload is you can simply draw your trail directly on the map. There's a tool for this where, again, the red dots here are creating new points, and then you can adjust the dots to add detail until you get your final trail completed. Last page and the last step is editing details about your track. I'll zoom in a little bit here so you can see here. Powder Project asks for a lot of information. They want to know about difficulty ratings, the land manager, a summary and details description of the actual track that you've selected. You can add photos and symbols and various other things. So it's a pretty comprehensive resource. If you are entering information into Powder Project and you want to select your local club as BSI, that would be great. That helps us track how many folks on our webinars or workshops and are participating in this mapping work. So as you're going through this process, we really encourage folks to think about all of these questions. Where do you enjoy recreating? What areas are really important to you? Do you want to see protection for? What access points are really important to you? Are there parking issues that you've seen or other access issues, private land, etc., conflicts that you'd want to see resolved? Which areas would you recommend to other people? Where do you run into conflicts, and who are you conflicting with? Is it with motorized users? Is it with other users? Are there simply too many people out there? Are you seeing a lot of interaction on the land? Are there particular areas you're worried about? If so, why? Tell us about them. We want to know that information. And then which areas are you seeing a lot of user conflict in? Where do we need to work with the agencies to address some of those conflict issues? And so again, we've got a bunch of different opportunities for you to engage in this mapping project. I think the easiest for a lot of folks is through the Adventure Project online platforms, which are listed here again. Again, really easy to use interface for folks, and then easy for us to pull that data out of the back end and use for our advocacy work. For the winter snow sports information specifically, we're also willing to take data by email. Again, if you've got KML files, GIS files, or GPX files, we're happy to take those. You can get in touch with me at bsi@cmc.org. That's probably the easiest way to get that information over, and that'll allow you, again, to add more detail on any of the user conflict issues or issues that you're seeing. The other great way to get involved is through our mapping workshops. I mentioned our next one is in Gunnison on October 15th. And we will be having more every 6 to 8 weeks, probably throughout the winter, all across the state. So please do check out www.cmc.org/BSI. That'll give you all of the information about our mapping project and when we've got upcoming workshops and webinars happening. I think that is about it for today. Just a brief overview of what we're doing. Again, I would love to take questions and work with folks on this mapping project. We really appreciate your engagement on this because, again, you all are the experts in outdoor recreation and know the areas all across the state way more in depth than we could ever hope to. So appreciate your engagement on this project and look forward to working with you. Thanks so much.